Mr. Fitch joins the band. Story and pictures by Emmy Rosansky. Mr. Fitch was an old man. He was also a cranky man. Mr. Fitch was a cranky old man. Mr. Fitch often liked to sit on his front porch and watch the town, but when the postman waved hello, Mr. Fitch scowled. When the newspaper delivery boy waved a cheerful greeting, Mr. Fitch responded with a harumph. Every evening, Mr. Fitch would stomp around the block for his exercise. One night, the town jazz band was performing a concert in the park. Mr. Fitch paused on his walk to grumble about the loud racket. Then someone stood up to play a solo. She was a little stooped over, her hair was white, and her face was wrinkled, but boy, could she play the trombone. The sweet sounds of the trombone brought back memories. Mr. Fitch had played the trombone a long time ago. When Mr. Fitch got home, he dug out his old dusty trombone from his school band days. Mr. Fitch took a big breath and blew into the trombone. A loud blatty sound came out. Mr. Fitch had a lot of work to do before he could sound like the lady in the band. He practiced every day and soon began to remember how to play. After a month, Mr. Fitch played well enough to join the town jazz band. Mr. Fitch had fun in the band. He started to smile. He met the white-haired trombone player. Her name was Molly. One day, Molly came over for dinner. After dinner, they played duets on their trombones. Mr. Fitch loved to hear Molly's clear, beautiful sound. After many rehearsals, the band director asked Mr. Fitch to play a solo in the next concert. Mr. Fitch was scared to take a solo. That week he practiced twice as much. He played his solo for the postman, the newspaper delivery boy, and Mr. and Mrs. Pocus from across the street. The concert day came. Mr. Fitch was too nervous to sit still. He paced back and forth in his living room. Finally, the concert started, and the moment for his solo arrived. Mr. Fitch stood up and almost sat right back down. His legs were shaking, and he felt wobbly. Then he saw the postman sitting right in the front row. He saw the newspaper delivery boy and Mr. and Mrs. Pocus, too. They were all there for him. Mr. Fitch started to play. He played his heart out for all his friends. When it was over, he sank back into his seat and was happy. Happier than he had been in a long, long time. These days, Mr. Fitch still likes to sit on the front porch and watch the town. Sometimes Molly sits with him. When the postman or the newspaper delivery boy or the neighbors pass by, Molly and Mr. Fitch wave a cheerful hello and always have their trombones ready to play a tune. The end.